Well, today we have the opportunity to maybe get the last coat of clear on the fairing. It's looking like rain, but it's supposed to get sunny this afternoon, so if we get an early start, which I'm hoping we will, we'll get another nail in the coffin of this restoration repair. R&R. Now, we've had several good rides on the old GS lately, and time to start recycling some other bikes into the pitching rotation, but I really do want to work on the FZR today first. And as everybody knows, I go out of my way to make every day just a little bit different. Try to avoid that Groundhog Day syndrome that a lot of people fall into. And what could be more important before we even get a piece of sandpaper in our hands and feeding the fish? And they agree. They vote for me, by the way. They vote the windy hardline party. Basically, most or almost all of the fish were born in the pond and have lived their whole life in this little pond in my backyard that my son and I dug 22 years ago. I guess I'm a good guy. I always feed the fish and the birds first before I have my own coffee. Does that mean I'm a good guy? Now, the system that I've had really good luck with, and without leaving out any steps, I want to make sure I confirm what has happened on this job, that I've really gotten satisfied with the result, and I found out that it's pretty efficient doing it. Here's the final result, of course. Here's the one that still has to be done. I try to get on a dry coat of clear and then a really wet coat of clear, and over wherever the lines are, even some more extra clear. Now look at this bug. Look at where this bug was. We're going to sand him out today or tomorrow. Anyway, when I get to this point that I have basically the base clear on, I sand this with 1200, give it a final wet coat of clear, and then buff that with 2500 and that 4CR product. And that has really worked out great. I think it's worked out great. And I'm sure you could vary it according to shop conditions, according to what level of quality you want on the finish. But for this job, it's worked out pretty well. And we even have the mirrors here if we have time to do that. But the first thing here is to get this part sanded with 1200 sandpaper. That's the biggie today. Now notice, I'm not doing the part. This part has dried 3 or 4 extra days. I'm old school. I want the stuff to dry. I really don't like sanding paint that's only a few hours old or a day old. I found, and it's in my shop conditions where it's cold and damp, if you leave this sit extra days, it just makes the job easier. Doesn't come out any different. It just means you spend less time doing it. This is the product of choice. It's Mirka 1200. Now, it just seems like, and this is a product we used to use to sand Brodak dope before buffing it, and it seems to work really good with the 2-part urethanes too, and especially with the 5-star clear. What this does is it flattens out all the paint lines so that the final coat of clear lays nice and flat, and then that final coat of clear can just be sanded with 2500 and buffed. It's extra steps, but the results, I think, are well worth it. Now, of course, depending on a lot of factors, the finish that I have now, see, I can still feel that, even with all that clear on. If I don't sand this coat of clear, if I were to just sand this with 2500 and buff it, it's not going to be the same, because like really quality finish has 2 things. It's flat and it's shiny. If it's lumpy and shiny, it really doesn't look the same. Orange, peely, and shiny, not the same. Flat and shiny is what I'm striving for. So this step, some soapy water, a little bit of Dawn in the water, some 1200 sandpaper, and a couple hours of exercise. A thing I always like to do is a little test, just a small test on a part to make sure. What this is going to tell me is if this is ready for the sanding. Because this has a lot of orange peel on it. When I put this on, I wasn't really concerned with getting it to lay out flat. Doesn't really matter at this point in time. It's going to be sanded anyway. And if I just put more clear on top of this, it's still not going to be flat. So the objective here is to get this coat flat as we can make it. Hopefully not go through any more than we have to, if we have to at all. And sometimes you're lucky you do a whole part and you don't go through. but you would typically go through around an edge where you're trying to get the edge flat. Now I wanted to do one of these in real time, one area here, just to show what's involved. Now, got the sandpaper, I'm using this. I'm turning the sandpaper, so I'm using the other edge, and right away I feel, ooh, it's cutting a little bit better. Wow, because the sandpaper, just like a knife blade, it cuts and cuts, and then it gets duller and duller. So here I am, I'm just picking a spot, say maybe at the size of a playing card. I don't try to do the whole part at once, just not productive. Now turn the sandpaper another 90 degrees. Now I've got what amounts to be a fresh edge on the sandpaper. Try to go, if you if you have a choice, to go in 90-degree angles. That supposedly the car people have told me that really works well for them. And I try to do it. I don't see a big difference, but I'm not doing big parts. So, but the main thing is to get everything flat and dull before I put any more clear on this. And then that last coat of clear, I'll really try to get it to lay down to minimize the amount of work I have when it comes time to buff it out. And when you do all these steps in a row and correctly, the buffing part of it is smooth as silk. Now I wanted to show this without a camera cut. Yeah, I don't like that camera cut stuff. You can see here, and here it's flat and dull. Now I see the little moon crater there, have to sand that. I want the whole part to be flat and dull when I'm done. So if, as I'm going along, you take a part about the size of a playing card, another piece, I divide it up. When I get to this area, I want to make sure that I can close my eyes and I can't feel that stripe. Especially on the parts that are really going to be the focus of the motorcycle, the top edge of this. Down in here, and if it's not a little perfect, nobody's going to really see it, but up here, they're going to see it. And that light, when you go past anything where the sun is shining, the bead of light's just going to go right across there. So now the question is, just pick the next spot on here, the next spot here, start dividing it up. It doesn't matter how you divide it up, but to do it and some people like to do it in smaller chunks. I like to do things about the size of a playing card. Good way to start it. And the biggest thing is to have the sand. I cut it to this size. Sand, turn that sandpaper, turn it, because all of these fine grit papers get dull relatively quickly. And you can see after sanding out, I've got no paint residue in it at all. What that means is the paint is totally dry. Now I'm in the cell of sanding, so I didn't even know this happened, but Karen just got home and she said, "It's pouring outside. You're not going to be able to paint today." Well, I guess she's right, so I'll reorient the day. And you know, this is the part of living in this area of the country. You never know. But we ducked the rain yesterday on a ride, and we ducked the rain many times, and it looks like we ducked it again today. So I guess I'll just plan out the day, just get parts prepped up for the next paintable day. And that's always what good sequencing, the things I always say, good sequencing and good luck. So just to mention another thing, all these fine grit sandpapers, when I start the job, I cut up maybe 8-10 sheets and just save it, because I'm going to have the other part, the side part too. If you try to save a few dollars on sandpaper, what happens? A job like this can take 5 times as long. So I'm always in favor of just buying more sandpaper. Now it looks like we got one side done right up to and over, and see, I'm rubbing my finger. I don't want to feel that stripe at all. If I can feel it, I'll keep sanding. That's the whole idea of when I do the clear, I put extra clear right along anything that has an edge or a joint. So I'm about halfway there. It's still pouring out there, so it looks like it's going to be a sandable day. Now anyway, there's a decal. Of course, I want to be very careful I don't go through and yet get it flat. So I put a lot of extra clear over these decals. And surprisingly enough, even this and the FZR did come out pretty good. So, but anyway, we're always resequencing and sequencing our day. That I guess if you live in a place where the weather is less variable, it's easier to make a plan. But to me, it's always challenging trying to get the most use out of the day, because if I don't, nothing gets done, or I get less done than what I really want to do. And I guess it's all part of being a workaholic. I don't know. I'm not sure. But anyway, this is going to come out nice. But the way it's going to work, I'll get this part totally sanded today, and maybe even a little time left over before it's time to get the baby. But you always have to deal with the weather. I think Karen's got some honeydews, so you never know. You just got to keep like a football game. Just keep running the ball and getting 3 yards of play. Now, it's a little tricky. I don't want to see any little shiny outline around a decal, but I don't want to go through. So I'm really walking a fine line here. I think I've got it. So we're basically, at this point, halfway. And if you try to rush this, I know it's so tempting to want to say, just get that through it. Well, you know, it's easier for me if I break up a job like this into little pieces, and just patience above all. And as you get to this point, you can look around and you know you're about at the halfway point. A little less because I have to do the bottom yet, but the critical things, getting that flat, getting it that I can't feel a decal. See, the ones that are not sanded, I can feel where the decals are, but it's just that's that little extra touch that puts it over the top. Now the thing with a part like this, there's always the little edges and angles and things that you really have to delicately do. Like this edge here, I don't want to break through the paint edge, and yet I do want to get it sanded nice and flat. And all of these things are just time consuming. There's just, you wish there was some other way to do it that wasn't time consuming, but unfortunately, if you're waiting for that to happen, you have a very long wait. There's just no substitute for being patient and doing it. If you have to, split it up into 2 days or 2 work sessions or whatever. And today, because of the rain, we've reoriented our whole day. Karen has some things she wants me to. She doesn't drive in the rain, of course, and so you never know where these days are going. Every day's mystery meat. But at least I don't have that thing that a lot of people suffer from terribly, is Groundhog Day syndrome. It's like you wake up in the morning and you've already lived this day, and it's like Bill Murray comes out of the, you've lived this day before, and it's not exactly the same as the day you're eating the same Cheerios. And I try to make fun of it, but it's not funny. A lot of people really suffer from that. Really not that funny. Anyway, we're grinding this out. I'm hoping an hour and a half from now, this part will be done. We'll get some of our honeydews done, and we have our grandson coming, of course. And of course, no Little League game today with all the crappy weather. I guess they'll postpone that. And one of the things I try to do, and I think this is a good tip for anybody that you're doing this kind of work. My arm gets tired after about 2 hours, so I try to do my honeydews right in the middle of the day and then go back to work. In this case, I got to stop at Lowe's, where you just can't make this up. It's rain, no rain. Rain, no rain. It's hard to sequence a day like this. And we'll get back and get some more sanding done. I'm well rested now. Time to get back to the grind. The grind. Oh, with all this rain, the swimming pool, the poor pond is filled right to the top. All right, now the next step on this is to do the whole bottom. I've got the sides done. Getting in these scoops is kind of annoying. We just got to take our time and do it. That's all there is to it. No part of this is any different than digging a coal mine. It's just the same thing over. Just keep sanding and sanding. But boy, in the end, when that whole motorcycle's put together, you're glad you did it. Now, a lot of times, the hardest part on this is holding a part, because it's such an awkward shape. Not like the side piece where you can basically lay it flat. But it's always good to take a break, and Karen sees to it that we have plenty of breaks in a day. And we're all set. We got all our supplies from Lowe's. I now have the paint that I need inside the fairing, the flat black paint. So once I get the final clear on this, we'll be cranking along. Now the last part of this is the part you really don't see that much, but I still would like to make it as nice as I can. Of course, Anyway, we really did use a rainy, crappy, errand-filled day to get one of the parts ready for, this will be ready for the next paintable day. We get some clear on this, I will feel like $1 million, boy. That will be the final coat of clear. That'll have to dry. The longer the better, of course, and in the warmer environment, the better. If it's warm, we may even shut the heat off in the house here, who knows? You never know. Everything's mystery meat. Anyway, surprisingly enough, I don't have any touch-ups on this. Usually by now, I'd be touching up some little spot. And I'll look this over real carefully at the end, make sure I don't have any scratches or anything I don't want to see in the final product, because in the final clear, once I bury that, then the touch-up is a more difficult item to do. But still, I would like to get this, even though we don't really see this underneath part, as nice as possible. The final thing today, and I would count this as mission accomplished. Tack rag this all down, set it up on the bench. We'll tack rag it a final time just before we paint it, but this will get any of the silicone hopefully off. And now what we've invested in today by spending this day, and it was a rainy day of course, about 4.5 hours of time on this. What we've invested in, and I think we're going to get a good return, is when we put that final coat of clear and then wet sand it with 2500, the buffing is going to be just beautiful. So, I hope you enjoyed the video, and pray for some decent weather. Boy, we have gotten the craziest weather, but a lot of times the good sequencing can get you through that crazy weather. Unless, of course, you're lucky enough to have a spray booth and temperature controlled and a NASCAR garage and a bank account with a lot of money, and well, I'm pretty happy with what I have though. I think I made a lot with not too much. Anyway, thanks for watching.